Video covers the installation of the QBOT on the Prodigy machine and frame. We'll start back here at the XAxis drive assembly installation. The first thing to do is remove the original screw and wheel from the frame. You start by loosening the nut back here on the original installation. Remove the nut. You're going to reuse that. And then unscrew the original screw right here. Take the wheel and the screw out, and you're going to replace it with this screw that is 3.5 inches long. Place it through the wheel, thread it back in through the extrusion, and tighten up the nut back here. And we'll do that on both sides. So here on this wheel, and again on this wheel over here. Both of them are the same. Then install a 1/2 inch long spacer, a 1/2 inch long spacer, and a 1/4 inch long spacer, and then the drive assembly, and tighten it with the nut. So the spacing distance from the nut to the drive assembly is a total of 3/4 of an inch. There's two spacers, one 1/2 inch one and one 1/4 inch one, and do that on both sides. Then once the drive assembly is placed and tightened, you can move on to the next step. The next step for the X-axis is to install the X-axis drive wire holder. They look like this. It's this piece here. And there is a nut that slides into this channel, goes into the channel in back, and then you can thread this screw into it and tighten it down. There's no need to take any of the end caps off or disassemble anything at this point. We do this at this side, and you line up the round edge here with the edge of the original frame extrusion right there. So we place that and tighten it up. We do that at the other side as well. Then we're ready to install the drive wire. The drive wire attaches right here, and then comes along here, and then wraps twice over the drive wheel. And I'll zoom in for you there. It wraps twice over the drive wheel. It goes in through the top of the wheel, wraps around twice, and exits from the top of the wheel. And then it goes to the opposite end of the frame. Right here, where it meets a turnbuckle. So here it attaches to the hook of the turnbuckle. The other end of the turnbuckle attaches to the wire holder, and then to tension it, you hold this piece here firmly and then turn the barrel. You want to make sure that that is nice and tight. The wire will have a deep tone to it, but there's no doubt that it has got tension in it. The next thing is to install the Y-axis drive assembly, and that's done in 2 steps. The first step is to place a nut, a slot nut into this slot here, in the same manner that we attach the Y-axis wire holders. The slot nut slides into the back, and then we use a 1/4 inch spacer, and then this 5/16 diameter screw. And this screw is 5/16 diameter, and the length is 3/4 of an inch. So 5/16, 18 by 3/4 of an inch screw. We attach that here in the front and right there. Actually, this is the front of the machine, and this is the back of the machine. Then once that's attached, we attach the drive assembly to the remaining holes on the bracket using a 1/4 by 1 inch screw through here, through the bracket, and then there's a washer and a nut on the back. And we do that in the front, shown right there, and in the back, right there. Then the Y-axis drive assembly is attached And there is clearance above the table, just like that. A little bit. My fingers can't go through, don't really go through like that, but there is about 3/8 of an inch clearance underneath the drive assembly. You do have some motion in here. You can move this bracket forward and backward a little bit, which will allow you to check to make sure that the machine can come all the way back without the drive assembly hitting the frame here. The machine is all the way back and it misses there. And when we move it all the way to the front, it also misses. It's not hitting the frame at that location. It is hitting the frame with the needle. So there's plenty of room and no motion is lost with the drive assembly. Once that's installed, you can move on to the Y-axis wire holders, which is this tab right here that looks like this. And it uses a similar screw, a little spacer, and a slot nut that's inside the slot. Place it, tighten it, and we'll do something similar in the front. Although at the front here, you can see that this is at an angle. And we'll look at that in another camera angle in a second. So once the rear one is mounted, you can place it, but don't tighten it quite yet. We want to make sure that the spacing from the end here is set properly and in alignment with the drive wheel that is right there. In the front, we have this piece, the other X-axis wire holder, off at an angle. And the reason we do that is so that when we draw the machine all the way forward, this piece, if this were slid over, this piece would be in contact with the turnbuckle here and cause a misalignment of the wire. So having it off and allowing this to be a straight line shot from this point all the way back to the back one is what we're going for. And it doesn't hit any of the drive assembly, and the drive wheel does not hit the turnbuckle, as we can see right here. So you have the drive wire holders installed. You can attach the drive wire. Place one end of the drive wire on the hook in the back right there, as we can see right there. And then it goes forward and then wraps over the drive wheel, entering and exiting from the top, as we show there. And then it goes to the front, to the hook and the other drive wire holder. And then you tighten the center barrel, you turn it to tighten it and make sure that this is tight. Make sure also that this hook does not turn. You don't want to twist this wire, you just want to pull it taut. So hold this stationary and twist that barrel. The QBOT head itself mounts up at the front of the machine using this 1.5 inch long spacer, a 2 inch long screw into a slot nut that fits right into this slot. So once it's all assembled, you tighten the screw and everything is ready to go. You make the following connections: the power connection here, the X-axis drive wiring harness here, and the Y-axis drive wiring harness right there. So 3 connections: X, Y, power, and then this one, which is our 4th connection, and that is the remote start and stop wire, or a QBOT connector cord that mounts here. These wires then come back toward the back of the machine. The connector cord wire, this one right here, rides along and then slides in this channel all the way back. You can thread it through, and then it has a connector that mounts behind this cabinet here. This is removed by removing this right here. Of course, your power needs to be off, and then removing this right down here. So turn off the power, unplug the machine, remove this here and in the front here. There is a connector right in here that is marked a right rear HB. I think it's RRHB. So pretend you can see the circuit board here. You plug in the other end of this cable right here into that connector that says RRHB. Once that is done, you can replace this top cabinet and then put this screw back in and put this screw back in. The other wiring harness wires are attached to the included strain relief pads here and here, and you can place one back under here, and that just keeps this really nice and tidy up at the top here. Then you take the Y-axis, or the white wire, and it wraps through over to this side. And you might want to tidy this up on this side as well with a wire tie. Maybe one or two. Place it up to here, and it connects to the Y-axis drive motor, just like that. The X-axis comes around just like this, and it mounts up underneath right here. And what I've done here is I've connected it and then have it bent this way. And then the wire just hangs out like this. It doesn't impede the motion of anything. The bearings are nice and light, and it just slides back and forth without any difficulty. It scoots along, and I suppose if you would like to, you can bundle that in some manner and get it a little bit better out of the way if you need to, but it's not absolutely necessary. Only if it impedes movement do you have to worry about that. And then once that is done, that concludes the installation, and you're ready to go and watch the other videos about how to actually use your QBOT.